Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Train Man, and we are jumping right into it, of course, because this is cut from a much longer piece. So, I just put down a piece of track that I don't think I ever got to use, and that was just a piece of training track, because I wasn't quite sure where everything was going to line up, and, of course, I'm still not sure. This episode focuses mainly on the pulp mill itself, and working on the tracking in the area around Arturo. Of course, we don't finish it, because I believe I had to run off to class or something similar. Or I realized that the video was getting incredibly long. One of the two. Doesn't really matter at this point. Point is, we didn't finish the tracking around the pulp mill, so we're going to have to go back and do that soon enough. Ideally, that'd be done today, actually, because I've been trying to stay 1 week ahead. Also, I should be trying to release the things 1 day ahead, because despite what I said in the last episode, the upload times have returned to terrible. And though I hope they fix that soon, I can't count on it. So instead, I'm just gonna have to start uploading things early. Now it's Thursday, it's the middle of the day, and yesterday's video hasn't even gotten uploaded yet. But of course, that's because it got a late start, and I really couldn't do anything about that. I just didn't have it ready in time. Which means I'm gonna have to play more War Thunder. Oh, you will notice that this is on Thursday. Well, it's probably not gonna make it out on a Thursday. It should have come out on the Thursday. It might make it out on Friday. Friday morning, perhaps, or Friday noonish. But that's beside the point. It's supposed to come out on a Thursday, so that means this is Trains Thursdays now, and I don't know where the damn slide is. I want to show you guys the title card that I got given, and put it up for review, basically, but I don't know where I put it, so, and I haven't had the time to look for it either. I expected it to be in my documents, or my downloads, or my screenshots, or something like that. The screenshots is not the folder you'd expect it to be. It's not actually full of screenshots, but it's not. Frankly, I've been perplexed, so I haven't been able to tear apart my documents in search of a title or a ending slide. If I manage to find it, oh right, no, I'm sorry, this video already has an ending slide on it, because I processed the video part of it long time ago. And the reason I did that is because with the post-commentary and everything, I just had to, and with the fact that it was a double video, I just had to stick the intros and outros in there and process the whole thing as one chunk, and then cut it in half when I was doing the post-commentary for each half. That's why if I was a little bit lazy and you guys are exceptionally attentive, you're going to find either a black spot at the end of the last episode or a black spot at the beginning of this video. Although this video's pretty well cut, I think. But you'll see that as opposed to directly either jumping out of the end slide or jumping into the intro. So I'm really not quite sure what I'm doing right now. I was trying to measure something, I believe. Oh, that's right, now I know what I'm doing. Okay, so we finally get the show on the road with putting down our 3-foot gauge track. So that's going to come along here. It's going to actually be moved in quite a bit when I go to actually build the mountain. You guys will see when we get there. It's not this video, because I haven't done it yet. But the general idea is, elaborating on what I was saying in the last video, is that both of these tracks are climbing along the curvature of a decently sized hill, mountain, whatever. I was trying to find another word that included both. Uplifting? I don't know. And so but the narrow gauge is higher, so they're kind of sticking to the same, both of the curves have the same center point, but they're two different sized curves. So now you'll notice I brought this thing way out there, and I think I do edit that a bit before I actually use it anymore. And actually, I don't think I connect the pulp mill to that stretch of narrow gauge yet, because the whole thing that I'd come up with now, or that I had come up with at that point, or would come up with by the end of this video, is that the tracking there is actually going to be on an embankment, and it's going to be raised up above the tracking for the pulp mill, and that trains that are using the pulp mill have to come down off the embankment. So I start working on the standard gauge here now by throwing in a couple of crossovers. I believe it might just be one. It's just this one crossover for now. I might throw in a complement for it later in the video, I don't remember. But the tracking from there is gonna go. Oh yeah, so there's the complement. The tracking from there is actually gonna go down to the pulp mill, and you guys will see that in a second. I really hope I adjust that because it looks kind of shequad. No, I guess not. So right about there, yeah, you see me grab my track addition tool, and then bring that track off the side there, and that's going to be down to the pulp mill. I actually include later. I'm pretty sure, a decently generous sized yard lead for shunting purposes, although I believe that was one of my biggest troubles because I wasn't quite sure where to put it. I keep coming back here. Come on, no, go work on the pulp mill, you fool. There's nothing else to do over there. You don't know what you're doing yet. We'll get to the terraining when we get to the terraining. So, eventually I'm just going to get fed up and just place down the pulp mill, and that'll happen soon enough, because I can see it in the thing there, but I'm right now just kind of contemplating exactly what to do. Now, unfortunately, spoilers, I already know what I do, or at least, to the best of my memory, know what I do. And so I bring out this one long track here, kind of awkwardly curved track. Not as bad as some of the stuff I built in Train Fever, but not great either. That's one of the things I wish you could do. You could adjust the spline points after you lay the track in Train Fever. What a lot of people have been asking for is to plan multiple segments at once, which would be cool. Alright, so there's our pulp mill. If you've never seen one before, that's your standard hide pulp mill. You've got your wood chips input on the right there, and your goods output on the left. And I really wasn't sure about what I wanted the orientation to be. In the original map of Arturo, it was at about that angle, or maybe even a higher angle. But frankly, I just started ignoring that map very quickly. I also think I at least considered putting in a multiple industry, and I'll tell you guys where when we get to it. And it was just to transfer, I don't know what I assumed I wanted to transfer, probably goods from the pulp mill back to the narrow gauge. I was just I spent a lot of time staring at the map and trying to figure out where different cargoes would go. It didn't do me a lot of good, just because I already had which line is the standard gauge and which one is the narrow gauge kind of cemented, or else it would screw with some of the rest of the system of commerce that I already built, or that I'm planning to build. I need to go back and do all those multiple industries in the baseline session, which is what we work in, so that everything can work correctly, and so that when I'm planning out my actual play sessions, we don't have we have a little bit more in terms of constraints, and that's not the last time I do that, for the record. So we have a little bit more in terms of constraints and a little bit more flexibility at the same time with what exactly we can put there, or what exactly kind of cargoes we can use and what we can do. So that's a very long straight stretch of track. I'm not sure if I end up tossing that or keeping it, but it becomes a lot more complicated once I actually get down to business and start doing actual work. So I straighten out that thing, I think, yeah. I know how I think. When I see something that's screwed up, I normally saw it in both instances and fix it. But me still trying to figure out exactly what to do here in terms of how this is going to work. I go to put our goods drop off, and then I'm like, no, you know what, that doesn't make any sense, because trains coming in wouldn't just shuttle themselves right into there, and then at that point we'd have the narrow gauge on the other side, and they wouldn't be able to pass through, and they wouldn't be able to back up. And long trains wouldn't have the ability to go all the way in. Giggity. I did a little bit of tracing of the narrow gauge there, just to figure out exactly what I was working with, and what I could be working with. And that was just me figuring out which track was which, because I didn't know right off the bat. It's been a long time since I've actually used one of the pulp mills, so it's sort of like it's new all over again. It's like a stupid person going outside, who's just totally, I'm trying to reference an RTAA. What is it? Which one? The one with the vending machine. And it's like a whole new adventure every time you go outside because you're too dumb to remember or comprehend the stuff that you saw the day before. Even though everything's the same, it's brand new to you all the time. Alright, so I'm still wondering what exactly I'm going to do with this track. I haven't quite figured out my solution yet. I adjust that a little more. Eventually I'm going to go ahead and throw that at a complete 90 degree. Make it parallel to the track. Just overall. And I'm going, well, how the hell am I going to get, room here? Yep, there it goes. How am I going to get any room here to do anything? And then I bring the pulp mill much closer to the standard gauge. And that's about the time where I considered making that narrow gauge line, basically, for lack of a better term, just in a league all its own. Just, see, I did that again. I wanted to make the line just completely by itself, by its lonesome. And I didn't mean to do that, of course. But it did kind of look like what I was aiming for, despite the fact that I didn't mean to do it. So now I try to make a little bit better of a yard. If you recall how Tamaros looks, it's terrible. The actual best one I have done so far, and I'm pretty sure that's just with a period and not in this map, is the one in Galgora, where all the tracks are very tightly spaced. The angles of the switches are all pretty realistic. There's no awkward things that are gonna twist around a train with a boxcar or a train with a long coach to get the ends to clip into one another. Nothing's that tight. So I try to measure to get all of my switches to look about the same. Realize that one is just appalling. Trying to shift around some spline points here, and I'm going to bring that out to the length of the first track there. Now, once again with the yard lead thing, it hadn't occurred to me up until right now when I'm recording this that I could stick the yard lead on the other end and not worry about anything. Of course, I wasn't thinking that way when I made the yard, so I'm not even sure I have a solution by the end of this video, and if I don't, I'm going to go in and employ what I just figured out, which is to make there be no yard lead at this end and make all the switching done from the other end of the yard, which would make more sense. Keep in mind that the pulp mill is a very important through point on this map because there's only one of it, and these are standard gauge loads that are coming out of it. So you have a lot of big trains that are about to go over the pass. That'd be TARDIS Pass. That are loading up with the goods here. Now you could have unit trains, or not really unit trains, but trains that originate here and terminate in Temeros and their goods get spread around. Or you could have trains that originate from farther down the line, more to the north, and come through here and pick up goods on the way. Or trains that are traveling the opposite direction. It's just a source of general goods, and because general goods in TRS are just so ubiquitous, and they're not very specific in any sort of way, shape, or form, it's not something that I'm particularly concerned about. And it's one of the systems of commerce that I will work out once I'm all done with everything. Because when you have a lot of places producing general goods, it doesn't really matter where they come from, you just want to kind of do it efficiently. But, of course, what will consume the general goods? That's a question. We need to put some warehouses or something, maybe add a couple of things to Temeros. I know the towns that I do from now on will have a little goods points and more little factories and everything, because since I started this map, I've been much more acquainted with how railroads actually run as opposed to how I thought model railroads ran, which are just basically all with unit trains and, the stuff you pick up from locomotion, that's just completely and totally wrong. And, whatchamacallit, train fever is that way too, where pretty much every train is a unit train, because there's no switching. There's none of that stuff. It's not an interesting sort of... It's not a simulator. I'll just say it like it is. It's not a simulator, so they're not trying to simulate all of the nuances in how actual railroads run. And unless we build this map right, we're not going to be either. Coming down to it is the fact that locals exist. Trains with multiple kinds of cargoes to multiple different destinations, or one kind of cargo to multiple destinations, exist. And if you see here, I'm building this yard for narrow gauge trains. Something that I couldn't quite figure out, on the first try, was the spacing for the narrow gauge tracks. Now you got to keep in mind that this is a well-funded narrow gauge area, I suppose you could call. Once again, it's the only pulp mill in the map. It's probably rolling in the dough. So that means I couldn't do anything like the tracking at Grizzly Lumber, where everything's kind of curvy and wobbly and nothing's particularly precise. So this is all going to be stuff that looks nice, I should say. So this one will run past the building, I'm pretty sure. No? Yes. So that one will run past the building, and I believe that became some sort of yard lead. I threw not a reversing loop. I threw a passing loop on it. Passing siding. Run around track, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's not a passing siding in a yard. It's a run around track. But you gotta build them so that they don't look, so that the rails don't look too far apart, because then it just looks awkward. It's bad spacing. I'm not really sure how else to describe it. It just doesn't look right. So we've got our trackage here. I don't think there's a limit to... Oh, wait, no, yes, there is. That's right. I've never hit that limit, though. I've never really thought of it. There's a limit to how much an industry can have at what time. And so I was thinking there's no limit to how fast it can consume stuff, right? But no, it does. This isn't locomotion. And in Train Fever, this is represented as well. So the way they do their system of commerce is actually kind of commendable. It's one of those things where, when I was designing the quote Ultimate Train game that I started telling you guys about, that's what I was thinking of. Where each person has a destination, each cargo has a destination that's predetermined, and stuff like that. And everything's very, nothing's arbitrary. If you pick up some coal, the coal knows where it's supposed to be going. I mean, not consciously, of course, but the people who own the coal know where the coal is supposed to be going. Don't ask me what that spur is for. And they will pay you when it gets there, and they wouldn't have given it to you if it wasn't going to get there. So this is me having my Yardley dilemma. Oh, that passing loop over there, the one on the far left, that's for the train station, the actual passenger station for Arturo, because the town of Arturo is going to be wedged over on the side there. I think I might turn Arturo into a little bit more of industrialized kind of area, with a couple of warehouses and this, that, and the other that will accept various different things. And while I wasn't considering, originally, wasn't considering putting roads into the equation, no, I'm still not. I reconsider, because while we can have different pathways just kind of poking out all over the place, it's not prudent for me to start initiating a road network. Though I do want to be more careful with where I am putting the roads so that it looks like they connect to other roads, and that they kind of make sense. But we won't have an interstate system. I'm not Eisenhower over here. So here's a passing loop down at the end of that long track there. Oh well, that's the pulpwood track, or the wood chips track. So you bring your wood chips through there, and then you can run around them and bring them back. I suppose that's if and only if the engine is on the head of the wood chips train when you're going into the drop-off there. So when I was saying about the multiple industry, that's where I was going to put it, right basically where the camera is right now, underneath there. I was considering dropping a multiple industry in there and moving the goods from the standard gauge to the narrow gauge, or I might even do something else. One of the things that I want to do is have a gasoline drop-off in the area, in the town, I suppose, so that it's just another reason for trains to come here, and maybe we can reserve some of those yard tracks for something else. Yeah, that's why I put that crossover there. The multiple industry would be right there, right in front of the switch, basically, and I would put an extra narrow gauge track right along it, just so that it made sense. But once again, that's as far as I got, so we're going to work on this a little more next week. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I'll see you when we try and wrap this up, unless I have the urge to go do some training, in which case, that's what we're going to do instead. Trainman out.